anyone else tired today? It's very cold and overcast today here in Southern California, and it's like making me kind of sleepy. Still went and did my Pilates. My goal this year was to strengthen my core more. So would love to know if you guys are still on track with your goals for the year. Loving Pilates, much harder than I thought. But yeah, a little sleepy. Anyways, I was going through some of the questions and comments of some of my videos, and anytime, I noticed this, anytime we talk about forgiveness, it's like more than any other topic. It seems to touch a nerve. So, very interesting. So I looked at a couple of the comments and thought that I would, rather than trying to just answer everything in comments, I would do a live chat on it. So, the obvious stuff is always the obvious stuff, right? That it's hard to forgive people. They don't deserve it. Those are always the typical comments, right? They don't deserve it. And my response to that is always the same, but do you? Because there's always a price to pay when you choose not to forgive people. The price is that it makes you more ill. The price is that someday you're going to need forgiveness. And if you don't forgive, people are going to be less forgiving towards you, that none of us are perfect. There's lots of prices to pay. But people don't realize the toll that not forgiving people actually takes on your health. I love the expression that not forgiving people is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. So those are the obvious ones. But there were a couple of others that I thought were really interesting. So what about when others refuse to forgive you? Well, the truth is they won't always forgive you. There are going to be people who don't forgive you. When you hurt people and you hurt them deeply, there are going to be people who do not forgive you. And that can be very painful. That's the reality. When you hurt people, it can be a deep cut to them. And if people choose not to forgive you, that becomes their burden. Just like when you don't forgive other people, it's your burden. It becomes their burden. But doesn't mean you don't choose to do the right thing, right? So if you choose to do the right thing, yes, it can be painful when other people don't acknowledge it. It can be painful. It's like you're trying hard, and they just refuse to accept it. And it's like, does that mean you shouldn't do the right thing? It doesn't mean that at all. It means you should still choose to do the right thing, because it's going to still set you free in a lot of ways. And you can still love yourself. So I love, the word repent actually means to change direction. And a lot of people don't really know what the word repent means. It means to change direction. It means you stop doing what you're doing. So if you just say, I'm sorry, but you don't stop doing what you're doing, it doesn't really count. That doesn't count at all. You have to actually change what you're doing. And if you change direction and stop the behavior and you are sincere with it, then you can sort of rest assured that you're doing everything in your power to apologize to the person, to be genuinely ask for forgiveness. And if they choose not to forgive you, that becomes their burden. And you can attempt to make it right. And sometimes they're not going to let you. And that's just the truth. And that doesn't mean, here's the catch. You try to do the right thing, you attempt to make it right, you ask for forgiveness, and it takes time to show that you're actually doing the right thing. And that takes patience on your part. But if they can't do that, it doesn't mean that you need to allow them to abuse you. So it's a fine line, right? They're going to be angry, and that's fine. They're going to be hurt, and that's fine. But it doesn't mean you have to be a doormat or allow people to abuse you. So that's where it becomes a fine line. And rebuilding trust, when you're trying to rebuild trust with someone, most of the burden is on the person who broke the trust. That's just the reality of it. If you break trust with someone, most of the burden is on you to rebuild that trust. But not everyone's going to be open to that. So if they're not open to it and you're trying to rebuild this trust, sometimes the price is too high for the payoff. Does that make sense? And that's why you see divorce rates so high. That's why you see people leaving. Sometimes the price is too high for the person who is trying to seek forgiveness. Sometimes the price becomes too high if that person won't forgive you, or if they think it gives them carte blanche to abuse you, or they think you need to become their doormat. So sometimes the price becomes too high. Since the burden is on the person who broke the trust, if the other person is just completely unwilling over time, I mean, you got to give them time, right? If you really hurt someone, you got to give them time. But if they just can't, there might come a point where it doesn't mean that you should go back to your behavior. If you should maintain your integrity and don't go back to the behavior that was awful. Don't go, well, they didn't forgive me, so I should just keep doing it. No, that's not integrity. Integrity says that you maintain doing the right thing, even if they don't choose to forgive you. You still do the right thing because it's the right thing and because you're sorry and you genuinely are repenting for what you did. So I'm going to put my glasses on in a minute. I don't wear my glasses because of the glare, but I'll put them on in a minute and try and read some of your comments. So that's what happens if someone doesn't forgive you. But then there was another comment, and it says, you can't forgive yourself when others won't forgive you. That's not how it works. I thought that one was interesting. You're not allowed to forgive yourself if others won't forgive you, if the person you hurt won't forgive you. And I gotta say, honestly, I disagree with that. So because the word repent means to change direction, and the truth is there are gonna be some people who just aren't willing or ready to forgive you. But I know there are gonna be some people who aren't going to agree with me on this, but I really like what the Bible has to say about this. If God forgives you when you ask for forgiveness and you truly repent, then I think it's a little arrogant to hold on to what God has chosen to forget. So what God has chosen to forgive. It's like, what right do I have to keep beating myself? Am I that all-knowing that I should keep beating myself up for something that has been forgiven? But that, again, doesn't mean that I get to keep doing the behavior. It means that I'm supposed to turn my direction. I'm supposed to change my direction. And I'm supposed to ask for forgiveness, right? So I have to disagree with that comment. You don't get to just say, I'm over it, so it's over, right? You have to do the work. So you need to apologize. You need to show that person that you mean it. And it's a daily practice. So why is forgiveness so hard? Because I always think of love as a daily practice. I think of happiness as a daily practice. And I think of forgiveness as a daily practice. Because deep wounds are not something that just go away. Any of you who have had injuries, like serious injuries, know it doesn't just go away. You got to kind of rehab it regularly, right? So it's sort of like that. So you got to rehab, you got to do that regular stretching or rehab or whatever it is that you need to do for that injury. You have to keep doing it. It's a daily practice. So you wake up in the morning, my husband and I have this amazing relationship, but we don't have an amazing relationship because we rely on our feelings. Your feelings lie. Your thoughts lie. They can be based on having PMS or gas or whatever else. Your thoughts and feelings are not how you should base your relationships, right? You base it on a set of values. You base it on a core set of values and you live by those values. And even when you don't feel like it, you do it anyways. So there are many days I wake up and I'm not really in the mood to do the same thing, talk the same way or behave the same way that I normally do. Maybe I'm in a bad mood. Maybe someone cut me off on the freeway. Maybe the kid said something and I walk in the door, but I don't want to take it out on him. So I behave a certain way because I'm basing it on values, not on my current mood or my feelings. And was I always that way? Absolutely not. That takes maturity and practice, right? It takes wanting to stay married. That's what that's based on. It's based on a long time of working on it. So it becomes a daily practice. Forgiveness is the same way. So forgiveness is like you wake up in the morning, you'll think you're doing good one day. It's like, okay, I'm feeling better about this. I think I can forgive that person. And then you wake up the next day and you just can't. And I know I had a really crazy childhood. I wrote all about it in my book, The Relentless Courage of a Scared Child. Any of you who may have read it, it's like hard. It's hard when you think about some of the things that people may have done to you, especially as a child. And you're like, that person doesn't deserve my forgiveness. And the truth is, maybe they don't, but do you? I deserve the peace of forgiving someone else. I don't want to hold on to that anger and bitterness and resentment all the time. So when I wake up in the morning and I have that thought, they don't deserve it, it's like, okay, do the practice over again. Just like I have to practice love on a daily basis based on a set of values, I practice forgiveness on a daily basis based on a set of values, not based on how I feel in the moment. So I hope that makes sense. Because people who do the hurting often suffer more. Now, not always. There are sociopaths in our society. Don't get me wrong. There are definitely sociopaths who really don't feel much of anything. They don't really care. But if you are not a sociopath, let's just say the majority of people are not sociopaths. They may not show it, but deep down it hurts them more, right? Because it affects their relationships. It affects their daily life. It affects their happiness. It affects their joy. It affects their ability to have close relationships. So forgiving ourselves can be one of the hardest things to do, especially when other people keep reminding you of it. So at that point, it becomes your job. It becomes your job to make it a spiritual practice. I hope that this makes sense. I want to see some of your comments. Someone said, love this perspective. Thank you. Let's see what some of you said. I'm going to lose all of these when I get off of this live chat. So you can reach out to me, leave comments, ask questions, go back to this live chat. It's going to save on my page. So let's see. I feel like the world we live in, it's too difficult to get help for your loved ones who obviously need it. I did get help. I think it was super helpful by doing trauma work through EMDR. EMDR is a type of trauma therapy that really helped me. It helped me to let it go, to let the trauma go. It just takes the sting out of the trauma. You reprocess it in your brain. So that is really important work to do if you want to learn to forgive. I trusted and told my sister-in-law about my mother-in-law's torture, but she told everything. Yes, that's a violation of trust. Not everyone. So that's another thing. Don't give your pearls to swine. Now, I'm not saying your sister-in-law is swine. Okay. What I'm saying is it's an expression that says you shouldn't tell everyone everything, right? You have to make sure that that person is someone you can trust. You have to know that that person is someone you can trust, and you're not always going to be able to trust everyone. Not everyone's going to keep your confidence. Okay, let's see. What have we got here? These are all very valid points. Not everyone, you shouldn't tell everyone everything. If you pray for the person that hurts you and say it loud, you forgive them and you will heal. Agree. It's very helpful. Should you apologize to someone who didn't apologize? Should you forgive someone who didn't apologize to you? Yes. And if you can't do it for them, do it for you, because you suffer when you don't forgive. You suffer when you don't. I'm going to repeat that again. You suffer when you don't forgive. So yes, if you can't forgive her for her benefit, can you forgive her for your benefit? That's just the truth. And it's not going to hurt anybody. It can't do anything but good. Whereas holding on to hatred is not going to help anyone. So that's just the truth. So these are just, let's see. Someone is unforgiving toward you, but that becomes her burden. We talked about that. So I love these comments. So please, if you have any more questions or comments, go to my page and at Tana Amen and leave me comments or questions, and because I'm going to lose all of these. How to make the person who broke your trust, make her realize and make her apologize. You cannot make someone apologize. If you try to, they become bitter. You cannot make them apologize. You can tell them you were hurt. You can tell them that what they did hurt you very much. You cannot make them apologize. If you show anger, bitterness and resentment, chances are it's going to be met with anger, bitterness, and resentment. But if you go to them with sincerity and just tell them that what they did really hurt you, and it's okay for you to draw boundaries. So for the person who was hurt, it's good to draw boundaries. But for the person who is asking for forgiveness, I know this is going to really upset some people when I say this, it's still good to draw boundaries. So you want to offer your forgiveness. You want to put yourself out there, make yourself vulnerable, but not be a doormat. And that does mean drawing some boundaries, because there are some people when they're hurt, and maybe it's not because they're trying to be malicious, but because they're hurt, they'll take advantage of that. And it's like, you need to bend over backwards and you need to keep doing this for them. And you need to keep, it's your fault. And they're very hurt. So you've got to draw some boundaries. And that means, I love the same term that I use for parenting, which is firm and kind. Firm and kind. So you can't make someone else apologize. Okay. So anyways, would love to hear more from you guys, and just wanted to answer some of your questions. and always love talking to you. So talk to you guys again soon. Bye.